All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again at the next session on Risky Business 2022. For the next half hour, we are going to be covering Beyond Zero Trust, building a digital OneTrust organization. I'm Andrew Morris. I'm the UK Practice Director for Application and Cybersecurity for Turnkey Consulting. And it is my pleasure to be joined by Ralph Diaz, the Practice Leader for Cybersecurity at HFS Research. Ralph, would you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Absolutely. Thanks. Thank you, Andrew. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. Really pleased to be part of this event. So I work for HFS Research based in London. I cover the research agenda around digital trust, cybersecurity. I do a lot also on the automation side. So really my remit is quite big. I joined HFS a year ago. I have a lot of experience in Big Four in the security space, then moved to industry role for 5 years, and now back into the amazing world of research analysts. So glad. So I'm going to be presenting a few data points today, and hopefully you get some interesting insights.
Excellent. Thank you, Ralph, and welcome. So, as Ralph said in this session, we're going to be covering a few data points. What are organizations worried about and concerned about? So the theme so far today, we've been looking at some of the things our customers see, some of the things that you out there watching are dealing with on a daily basis. And it's to take a look back and use data to try and shed some more light on that, see where people are spending, what are some of the biggest challenges out there, how digital OneTrust organization can help with some of those elements, and just some very detailed information using real data, which I'm always good to see real data used rather than anything else. So there is time for questions and answers at the end. If people do have questions, feel free to type them into the chat box. We will be picking them up. But apart from that, otherwise, Ralph, I will hand over to you.
Perfect. Thank you. So before starting, so I'm sure you're all familiar with Zero Trust. So and then we're going to cover this in the session. But when I mention build a digital OneTrust organization, it's not the software or the GRC OneTrust platform. Yeah, I'm talking about the OneTrust HFS research framework that we use to evaluate service providers and to help also enterprise understand or articulate how a cybersecurity environment can be set up. Yeah, so it's not a tool. It's a framework. So let's jump in. So we did a study recently, so Q2 2022, a large survey involving 602 executives across multiple industries, all regions, quite a long study. And as you can imagine, and probably it's no surprise that cybersecurity again came as the number one challenge that could really impact the strategic goal of an organization. Yeah. And if you see really the other challenges, inflation, supply chain disruption, geopolitical conflict, recession, I mean, these are big challenges that you hear every day. Yeah. But when we ask that question, cybersecurity comes first. I think probably that's something that can really disrupt organization if something happens. And to be honest, also the level of certainty that I can respond to those disruptions is not very high, yeah, versus others where, yeah, inflation exists, but they can cope with it, they can deal with it, they probably have solutions. But the biggest worry and challenge is around cyber threats. What happened really if a big breach happened? What happened in terms of big privacy risk if they occur, and that can have a huge impact on the organization. So good to see cybersecurity in top position. Hopefully, organizations are actually moving now and really taking it seriously. But clearly, those exec have it in top of their minds, and you can clearly see by those numbers. We also asked the question around what technology investment you're going to be doing in the next 10 to 18 months. And again, cybersecurity came first. That's really around the question of how much investment you're going to throw again on a lot of nice cybersecurity technology. And it came first before all these hype around. We're going to move to AI tech enablement, even before really injecting more money into moving to a multi-cloud hybrid environment. Obviously, there's big money there that have been thrown in the last 3-4 years. But cybersecurity now, in terms of really ranking, it's going to start taking the number one position. I mean, it's taking the number one position before really all these other tech that you can see there. And if you look at cybersecurity, we ask around, what's your intention? Yeah, okay, you're mentioning that it's your number one area. How much money you're intended to spend there? And you can see really 36% are planning to increase by between 11 to 20% their investment in cybersecurity technology, which is a big number. Already a lot of investment have gone, but it's not stopping. Yeah, I mean, if you hear initially our assumption that it's going to slow down, absolutely not. It's going to still increase, and the number are here actually to prove that. So yeah, huge, big challenge. Number one, a lot of security technology investment going on, and when again we start looking or asking around, and that has been another survey we conducted to cybersecurity executives, CISO -1 across G2 Global 2000 enterprise. We really asked the question: if you have to actually give us 3 top challenges on your mind, what are those challenges? And we get those one. We get ransomware, number one. What happened? Obviously, this whole ransomware attack. The conventional one, I would call them, which is more around risk of data encryption, data exfiltration. This is number one. They're taking already a lot of actions. Clearly, the investment are rising. The whole zero trust is actually to be able to respond or prevent those type of breaches. But on number two also came also a ransomware related challenge, which is the distributed denial of services. Which again, if you combine it with the first one, that's really become the next gen of ransomware attack, which is not only about exfiltration, data exfiltration, data encryption, but also it's about disrupting your services. And why? Obviously, to be able to actually have a more negotiation power, but they're trying really this type of triple attack, using different means, but ultimately to get money out of the attacks. And also the move to really this whole now democratization of ransomware around the whole crime as a service model that can be derived on ransomware as a service, phishing as a service, but that's really booming, where you can have really those attackers that are pretty much helped by a community of practice. It's not the right one, but it's still a community of practice, but really orchestrating at the big level those kind of attacks. And obviously, the more you can contribute, the more you can get out of these attacks. So it's really becoming an industry. And that's really now has been highlighted by these executives. They are fully aware about really the industrialization of ransomware, and they're definitely putting this as one of their biggest threats. Last but not least, cloud account hijacking. Well, you put it again around, I mean, not only cloud related, but they mentioned cloud, but it's really about ability to compromise accounts and then obviously enter the network, start moving laterally, and start obviously doing a lot of different things. But it's pretty much the entry point, the gateway to the environment where they can start running, orchestrating their attack. So still really exploitation of identities, this whole identity access management, privileged access management, still really on top of those challenges or threats. And yeah, attackers are becoming way more sophisticated. They are really orchestrating at global level those attacks. They are using huge amount of computing power, and that doesn't come cheap. And running those attacks, so clearly, as you can see, it's funded, it's well orchestrated, and they're going big. And I think now it's high time for those enterprises to clearly respond to those kind of attacks by leveraging tech, processes, people. But it's definitely good to see that these are the biggest threat, and they are really actually focusing on. So when you talk about zero trust, obviously zero trust, it's an environment. Yeah, it's not only about tech, because many people really associate zero trust around, okay, let me go and buy 3-4 type of tech, and I'm going to build my zero trust framework and environment. I don't think it's something that can be built on a one-time program. It's a continuous investment that company needs to do. And you can clearly see here, we ask them really around what are their intention to increase, decrease, or staying the same in terms of investment in the next 12, 18 months around what we call the zero trust agenda. While protection, obviously, that comes first as a big area. They're going to still investing heavily in endpoint security, endpoint encryption, quarantine protection, being able to quickly quarantine an attack and then respond. A lot of forensic analysis at the endpoint level, not anymore really run centrally at the network. And yeah, all these really next-gen endpoint protection technology are really booming, and I think enterprises are actually buying them. Network security, a lot of companies are moving to network as a service, try to push really investment in those kind of as a service network operations. And you have seen the emergence of so many new acronyms out there, so many vendors positioning their products around zero trust network architecture, etc. But it's actually there. It's actually proving to be quite efficient, and companies are really trying to change their old traditional model of network management to way more managed services via network as a service, and the push is there. Yeah, application security is still there at all level, on-prem, SaaS, cloud, whatever. I mean, all the type of application where they sit, it's still a big area around controlling the application layer. A lot of focus we've heard on code, really focusing on code level security, embedding really code level security within the development lifecycle. A big push, to be honest, on the CSPM market segment, cloud security posture management, application security posture management, call it the way you want, but it's really the ability of monitoring the cloud configuration, monitoring the cloud movement of identities across multi-cloud environments, not only from one cloud provider, but many, and being able to have a central view of configuration, deviation of configuration against your baseline, and more importantly, auto-remediation activities when something deviates from the baseline. And that's really picking up quite a lot, this CSPM market segment. So when you move out of the protection, which is probably what everyone is focusing on, I think clearly and finally, enterprise have seen that education play a big role. Security awareness training, I think now they are definitely going big on that one. And it's one of the biggest net increase. 50% really are saying now, you know what, previously it wasn't so high. I think last year it was around 38%. So you can see the big jump on 50%. And definitely they're taking it seriously. Big investment, pushing on tech-enabled security awareness program, and you've seen a lot of vendor like Palo Alto or KnowBe4, etc., coming up with those security awareness platform, which are very easy to use, very engaging, that are role based, and it's going to be part really of the ongoing development of employees, not once in a year training session done, but it's going to be part of the entire curriculum of the employee, and that's really going to push hard on that area. Those cybersecurity executive mentioned. And last but not least, quantification. Quantification is going quite big, and two types of quantification: being able really to quantify security risk in a financial terms, because to be honest, right now it has been quite of a hassle for cybersecurity professional to bring back to the C-suite very tangible measure of quantification, obviously financial by nature, and it's always based on technical measurement, vulnerability, control effectiveness, but never really being able to continuously gather information and then translate that information into monetary value. And we've seen a lot of service provider creating their own quantification platform, and also tech vendor really trying to enter that. But again, it's a complex area. But I think there is a big push right now. And the second aspect of the quantification also is around the return on investment of the zero trust investment or any cybersecurity initiative. I think CISO had probably a big check, all over these years, implement, stay on top. But right now, the C-suite is really asking the security function to start measuring the effectiveness of those cybersecurity initiatives. It's not anymore, we're going to try to do something, but obviously if the deployment or effectiveness of any initiative doesn't have a return on investment, that's where really the C-suite is going to start scrutinizing heavily how the money is spent on cybersecurity. If I move really to one of the challenge that we see and something that has been highlighted by cybersecurity executive, because to be honest, it's probably the foundational component of any zero trust strategy is identity. Everything starts with an identity that has been compromised via social engineering, via brute force, but ultimately through an identity, you can start accessing accounts, you can start moving into the network and start obviously triggering those attacks. So big area within Zero Trust. 60% of IT executive will continue to invest heavily in identity and access management. But they've highlighted quite five big issues. First one is around how to manage privileged access. And not human, because I think a lot of investment has gone on managing human identity. But now what do we do with the proliferation of non-human identities all over the place? And that pop-ups probably by the hundreds every day. Yeah, and there's a big concern, to be honest, to be able to not only detect but pretty much onboard in a timely manner those privileged access when during the technology life cycle deployment, and make sure really that it stays in control post deployment. And I think that's a complex area. A lot of investment has gone, but still a big push to get there. I think pretty much a lot of large enterprises are on their journey, but still not there. Passwordless authentication mechanism. I think this has come up as the solution to all the identity problems. No more passwords. I mean, it's a great concept, yeah, but I think it's probably not so easy to implement at an enterprise level across all your system environment, from legacy to SaaS, ensuring obviously that everything is aligned. It's difficult. Even password policy at the application level is a hassle. So now really, if you're going to try to have a passwordless strategy at the enterprise level, it's not really a program, it's a journey. And they're starting really to do that, probably starting with a risk-based approach or based on the criticality of the system, but still not there. They are struggling. Managed services. Many enterprises have delegated the administration of IAM activities, PAM activities to service providers, and to be honest, the effectiveness hasn't been great. Yeah, I'm not going to say that there are no success stories, but overall, not really amazing. And I think they're still worried that there is a big push of moving more and more operations to service providers, but also there is a big concern about the quality of the operations. And OT infrastructure, I think a big area. I'm not going to enter, but still, again, I think, yes, I think a lot of investment has gone on IAM, on the IT network, but what about the OT network? Even if the concepts are the same, technicality is certainly different. There are different ways of connecting to those devices, system in an OT environment, and it's quite of a hassle ultimately to harmonize IT and OT and having a central set of IAM policies. And cloud-based application also. I think there is a fear of more and more business operations driving the whole procurement process, getting into a SaaS application, and suddenly IT function realize a few months later that someone is administering access, doing the whole management of the platform that sits in a business function without really having a clue around really what good looks like in terms of security. So also that there's kind of a challenge on that side. Privileged access management. If I drill down now on IAM, but more on PAM, again, I think a lot of big projects have gone. A lot of acquisition of privileged access management technology has gone. It's great, yeah, but what's really missing is still the appropriate level of automation to be able to stay in control. It's a difficult process to really manage the end-to-end life cycle of a privileged access management environment, from discovery of privileged account up to really auditing the platform. And within those two, you have a lot of activity, like the analysis, the onboarding, the offboarding, the log review. It's a lot of activities, and right now pretty much managed manually. 50% is probably what the platform gives you. The other 50% is all those processes, people that needs ultimately to manage the important things around, outside of the platform. But we don't see that a manual way of doing this is the solution. So the numbers are not worrying, but clearly processes are here. They are repeatable by nature. Still, the automation is not there to be able to sustain a huge privileged access environment. When you move to large companies, you can get up to 10,000 privileged access management users or accounts. You can't really cope with all these activities without injecting the right level of automation. It can be ad hoc automation that you put on top of a PAM platform, or actually enhancing your platform to actually increase those level of automation. But something there is missing, and it's quite concerning. So now I move to the OneTrust. I think I still have a few minutes. I never can cover all my slides, but so the digital OneTrust, really, I'm not going to go into the details in the interest of time, but it's the way we at HFS look at what a trusted organization looks like. And it's not only about technology. We see it as really kind of a human, where you have a nervous system, and nervous system is what we call really the digital and security underbelly. You can't really start moving to the intelligence-led auto-remediation, autonomous response, whatever fancy stuff you have, if you don't have your foundational element done. And foundational element is about data digitization, unification, governance, IAM, a DevSecOps culture, integration, obviously, of your security application with the broader IT landscape, so that everything is integrated, so that your response can flow quickly and smoothly once there is an incident. You can't really have a responding quickly to an incident if by the time your security application detect an alert and by the time you patch a system, 9 months have gone. And so this digital underbelly needs to be integrated, aligned, so that really you have the foundational element to move fast. That's really your back office. Circularity system is more around connected risk and security function. I mean, how many security function and IT and risk compliance function are connected? I think I would say very few. They're pretty much everyone operating in silo. No one have the same risk register, control register, single view of what's going on, and it's a problem. This lack of connectivity between functions. So you need to have that in place. Agile team, very defined service framework between functions, ability to interact quickly via mobile engagement, social interaction, and obviously some orchestration around those functions that are not manual by nature. But we have a lot of software right now that can orchestrate a lot of activities between those functions. And the continuous monitoring and the quality assurance that everything is operating effectively. That's also something that is baked into that connected risk and security function. But if you don't have those connections, how actually they're going to be able to work together, respond, and create those kind of the next layer, which is really having an intelligence-led risk and security functions. You can't really, if you don't have the foundational element, if you don't have the middle office, which are the people and processes, you can't really aspire to do process intelligence, threat intelligence, predictive cyber defense. We see a lot of AI injected everywhere, but how are you going to do that if you don't have your people policies, even your back office system that works? So it's not going to happen. So when we assess service providers, we don't assess the service providers only in its ability to deliver cybersecurity services. We look as a whole. If within the service providers, they don't also have strong services around IT network operation, IT governance, and they can't really show us how they align their approach to what we see is one organization where people, intelligent process, infrastructure come together as really one integrated management unit, and it's not really dispersed in silo. And that's what really we call the digital trust, digital OneTrust, our framework. There is much more behind that, but these are pretty much the macro view of that framework. And quickly, I think I'm going to jump on this one. I think we still have 1 or 2 minutes. Investment in IT, investment in managed services is booming, and it's not going to stop. I think clearly enterprise see their managed services now as part of their own ecosystem. And it's not anymore a relation that is based on really contracts, even if the commercial aspect is still old-fashioned. But there's going to be that. But enterprise now fully understand that they need to work with strategic partners to achieve their objective. There is no chance they can do that alone. And the same in cybersecurity. So a big investment in IT services, as you can imagine. And within IT services, there is a lot of subcategories. I'm just summarizing this one. But if you see in the IT risk and cybersecurity services, well, 58% of the executive we interview in a managed service custom project we did, 800 executives, 58% are planning to increase between 11 and 20% also their managed services. So support function are needed, strategic partners are needed, and almost 60% planning to invest that amount of money is quite big. And for the first time, it's more than compliance services, and it's more than business performance services, typical F&A. It's actually now even bigger in terms of cybersecurity. So also, if you look at the number one challenge, number one investment in cyber technology, and almost number one investment in managed services, you can see already the importance and how organizations are really pushing their investment. Last but not least, it's great to have managed services partners, but still the commercial aspect is still driven by input pricing, number of FTEs, time, material, output pricing based on consumption of how many transactions you run, how many SOP you run, how many incidents you manage, which is the typical managed services commercial contracts, and not so much around outcome pricing. So we want to see more around outcome pricing. I think if companies are serious about investing so much on managed services, it's probably time to move on from an old-fashioned way of running those commercial models to a much more outcome-based pricing approach. And it's still not there. 36% say that they're doing something, but hopefully this 36% can turn into probably 50% quite soon. And I think I just have, I think I'm on 57 minutes just there. Andrew, back to you. I'm going to go back to the chat if anyone has questions.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph. That was absolutely enlightening. It's good to see that there's many things we've helped and discussed with customers recently: the code security, training and awareness, quantification of risk. It's good to see them trending across the industry and more organizations focusing on them. Good to see that, I guess, our experience quantified, I guess. I think probably got time for one question, just because we need to wrap up for the next session. Is there any particular set of cybersecurity technologies every organization should have in their portfolio to address risk? So I guess this is based on your slide, where companies are investing now. Is there areas they've already previously invested in, or is considered we must have this now in this day and age to manage these risks?
So, I mean, obviously it's a lot. Yeah, I mean, from networking to endpoint, I think these are the really basic ones. Yeah, that really manage the security and moving also much more from a centralization of approach and controls, much more at really running those controls at the edge. And you can see all these new vendor, the whole of Zscaler, etc. They're trying to push really security not anymore managed centrally at the network level, but at the device level. Yeah, and I think this is where we see company investing heavily and hence the success of this company. But clearly, I think moving this kind of maintenance and operation at the edge, it's clearly proving to be way more easy to manage, way more easy to actually control all these identity that are everywhere. Yeah. And I think that's a push, and I think that's a must-have, and clearly everyone is moving there. I think they can't anymore maintain everything that they've been doing all these years, which also have been a bit ineffective when you see long-term where they are. But yeah, I mean, proper systems to manage identity, it's the foundation. And that's what we really look at quite a lot around digital identity, and our next big study will be on that. It's really, this is the must-have, being able to control your access, your identity, your privileged access, the foundation for everything. And then even when you have an endpoint technology, ultimately, what if your endpoint technology is badly managed? Well, someone will have an access, will be able to change all your endpoint policies, and then zero effectiveness in terms of monitoring. So everything starts really with that foundation, and I think it's there. It's there at the network level, application level. People are, we can see the maturity, and that's really the must-have technology. Where still, as you see, there's still a lot of challenges, but organizations are getting there.
Thank you very much.
But I'm not going to say there is a must-have set of tools so that you're going to be brilliant. Yeah, you can have all the tools possible. If you're not good in the middle office, if you're not good really in people and processes and actually deployment of tech, where are you going to go? You can have the best tech, but if it's badly deployed, badly managed, it's actually better not to have tech, yeah, and raise all that visibility and stay the same, because the tech bring that visibility. But if it's badly managed, ineffective, you're back to where you are. Yeah.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree with you on that one. I look forward. You mentioned there's some identity and access management research. I look forward to that being published. Yep. Can we just quickly jump on to the next slide, because we are out of time, sadly. If your question hasn't been answered, feel free to get in touch and we can continue the conversation and happily answer the questions. I'm sure Ralph was happy to as well. The next session in 15 minutes or so is with Burberry and looking for the opportunity in risk. Risk isn't always a negative thing and shouldn't be avoided. There's always opportunity and risk at times. So it'll be a session to explore that. In between now and then, feel free to check out the link to our expo on the left-hand side, just below the stage button. There should be a button for the expo. So please click on that and explore that area too. People are more than happy to discuss. But Ralph, thank you very much for your time today. It's a very interesting session. It's a pleasure to have you here. And for everyone watching, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.